I'm going to call the Town of Barnstable Shellfish Committee meeting to order on October the 11th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Please note that tonight's meeting is recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel, and in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, I must inquire whether anyone is taping this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. We're not live, but we're being taped, right? So, anybody else taping? Okay. First order of business is to approve the meeting minutes from August the 9th. They're here. I presume everybody's read them. I'll entertain a motion to...
I move that we approve the minutes, of October 9th.
Right, they've been moved.
August 9th.
August 9th. They've been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Great. I'll waive my comments at this moment. Well, actually, no, I won't. I'll just, for the record, I'll indicate that our next meeting is going to be at the Shellfish Selectmen's Conference Room at the Town Hall. If we can have the room. We believe that we can, and if we can, that's where the meeting will be, and we'll try and have the meetings consistently there in the Selectmen's Conference Room, which is the second floor. I'll get into the schedule in just a sec. First order of business, natural resources report. Amy?
Okay, so I have the numbers from last month, which was in September. Resident permits, we had sold 1,371, non-resident permits 470, resident senior permits 1,010, non-resident veteran permits 43, non-veteran senior permits 80, and seasonal permits 71, for a total of 3,045 permits and a year-to-date income in September of $146,726. Updated for October as of today, courtesy of Alicia. We sold 1,397 resident permits, 486 non-resident permits, 1,019 resident senior permits, 48 non-resident veteran permits, 81 non-resident veteran senior permits, and seasonal permits will stay at 71 because they all expired effective September 1st, for a total of $150,582. We do typically see a small increase in October to November for people who haven't renewed their permits yet and like to go out for oyster season. But other than that, it's pretty consistent with the amount of permits that we've had annually for at least the last handful of years since, pandemic times where more people recreate than usual. Anyone have any questions about numbers?
What's a non-resident? How much you charge?
$140 for a calendar year. Seasonal permits are $70 with an option to pay the other half for a year-round permit outside of the seasonality of the permit. We have a couple of notices. Oyster season, page. Oh, that looks really small. This is another reason why moving to Town Hall would be great. Don't have to do this anymore. So oyster season will open Wednesday, November 1st. I did already hear back from DMF that Bay Street tested clean enough to open on time, which is great because in like 3 of the past 6 years, it's had to open late. So that's good news. Bay Street will still have some oysters. We're leaving the weekly limit there at a pack per week to continue cleaning out our moderate infection of dermo. All other oysters that we're growing on the south side have been moved to the Bridge Street recreational area. The Bridge Street recreational area, as most people know, is closed during the busy shellfish season because of mooring area closures. And so moving everything there because it's closed anyway just made sense. And then it'll be a half a pack there per week and then a half a pack per week at Scudder, and also accessible by Harris Meadow. We did have opening of scallop season October 1st, which was interesting because when we did eelgrass surveys off of Calmus, we found a lot of scallops, but a lot of undersized, but to an untrained eye might look like legal scallops. So I emailed the entire recreational fishery a reminder that while scallop season is opening, that these are the regulations that are put in place to protect scallops, which then resulted in a lot of recreational people thinking that we do scallop propagation and getting annoyed at Calmus when they found out that that's not how that works. But there is a small population there. Some people have been having luck with it. It's definitely been an educational opportunity to show people how to properly measure a scallop, and maybe won't result in us, confiscating close to 10 bushels of undersized scallops at Scudder like we normally do per season. Also open commercially, exception of course Lewis Bay because it's closed this time of year, slated to open November 1st. We do have a small budget for purchase of uglies for any growers that are interested. We've got $5,000. We can offer 50 cents a piece for your oversized stock for a total of 10,000 pieces. Any growers that are interested should reach out to shellfish biologist Liz Lewis. And then once we have a number of people who are interested, we're just going to split that evenly amongst everybody in an effort to kind of continue help people move like larger stock that isn't necessarily as marketable. And then the other discussion is kind of new, brought to us by the Bunnels for use of oyster grow type gear in Barnstable Harbor for purposes of staging product during Vibrio season. Brought it to the harbor master initially, who said that they didn't want to have any discussions around it further until I spoke to Army Corps or had a response from Army Corps. It turns out that Army Corps is completely fine with this. However, they said if one essentially like oyster grow per 2-acre site would be amenable, but it would require any grower interested to pursue their own Army Corps permit, because currently the Barnstable Aquaculture Zone, Harbor Aquaculture Zone is permitted to the town through Army Corps, and that permit doesn't account for any types of floating gear. So while that permit has expired, it can continue in perpetuity unless you decide to make a change to it. Where this would be a change of gear that's not in the original permit, any grower moving forward that would want to do it would have to pursue their Army Corps permit, which is totally doable. They were working on having like a one-paged sort of simple application for that. That was in draft form earlier this year. The only other piece is it still has to be vetted through Waterways and Harbor Master, and some of the requirements from Harbor Master were that they want adequate signage around the entire aquaculture zone itself. They've made some mention of the types of anchors that we would have to use and the size of buoys or like hazard to navigation signage that we would have to put out there. We're putting together a budget for that so we can hopefully purchase this stuff ahead of next spring and ahead of next Vibrio season. So more to come on that as we enter sort of their quiet time before renewal season, where I'm more likely to be able to grab them and like get them in a room to continue this conversation. Anyone have any questions about all that?
Anybody from the committee? Anybody from General Public? Questions for natural resources? No, guess not. Thank you, Amy.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I do have a question.
Sorry.
That Dermo in Bay Street, and what was that all about?
So we've always had dermo there. It's always been a light infection of dermo that we've been able to keep a light infection for well over a decade. We know we have dermo in the Marston's Mills River from the project that Three Ways Preservation did with us a number of years ago. So it's there. It's just managing the infection. When we got pathology, I want to say it was 3 years ago at this point, that showed that it became a moderate infection, we were like, clean it out, let it lie fallow, move on to something else. So we're still, because we had seed there, moving through that seed that we weren't willing to relocate to anywhere else. And so we're just continuing to have people clean it out. Oh, and also at Bay Street, because we are cleaning out all of the oysters, no longer a commercial closure there, so open to everybody. Normally we would put a commercial closure of that area because we had so many oysters there that it would be, in the eyes of Tom Marcotti, difficult for commercial guys to go in and harvest quahogs or soft shell clams. Now we don't have a lot of oysters there. We're hoping this is the last season before it gets cleaned out, and so there's really no reason to keep it closed commercially, so it's open to everyone.
And you're still limiting it to a pound per peck.
At Bay Street, it'll be a peck a week.
Oh, it will be.
Everywhere else, it's a half a peck a week. So if you were to get a half a pack at like Bridge Street or at Scudder, you could go to Bay Street and get another half pack, or you could go get a full pack at Bay Street.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Amy? Okay, I'm going to move on to the new business. Dry dredging discussion led by Jake.
All right, so back in 2020, we had some sponge and fouling in the Mills River, and we did a pilot program where we dredged in there for 3 years. And after this last year, there was quite a bit of quahog recruitment from cleaning the bottom and aerating the bottom. And I was kind of surprised, to be honest, how much seed there was. Went from absolutely no seed to quite a bit after, pulling the dredge, shaking the dredge, all the sand out, and then dumping it and still finding little tiny seed. So Amy's got some pictures.
Where do you want me to go?
You can do pre-dredging if you want real quick. This is not going to work.
That one's not a picture. Just close it. And then go down to the first 0184. All the way. Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
So this is like what was in the river in the beginning of dredging.
Doesn't just something like go through them?
No, sorry.
That's okay.
It should.
It can be.
And those are sponges right there.
Mm-hmm. And then that sponge, the yellow sponge is the boring sponge, and that quahog is infected with the boring sponge because there's so much fouling on the bottom that it was coming up to breathe, but then exposing itself out of the sediment, which makes it susceptible to the boring sponge. You can even see on the yellow crevices, that's a little bit of the boring sponge. And eventually it will, kill the clam. That one's like, I can't believe it's still alive,
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so this was a picture of like a cooked clam from Barnstable Harbor. And then I have a picture of a cooked clam from the Mills River. And so they were like very atrophied and they're just like full of water. There wasn't very much meat in them or anything. And then this is another example. And then you can go to the so there's some seed, you can see the old quahogs that are still in the river. But then this year there's a lot of little seed you flip through them. That's like saving, a day's worth. A scallop, I didn't catch one scallop in the first couple of years. There's even baby razor clams, and then, more quahog seed. And the meat in this one, you can tell, is much healthier and juicier. They're going to be able to spawn, I'm assuming, because they're not all watery.
When was that picture taken right there?
Probably in March.
This year?
Mm-hmm. Only 3 years after the first year that we did it. This is a picture of a 2-year-old neck. You can see the well-defined growth ring, kind of like what would make a scallop legal. And you can just see it was 1 year, 2 year, and that was a keeper. There's another one. More baby razors, and the razors were pretty cool because we didn't see one razor clam. And then, every day there'd be that many razor clams.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What river was that?
The Mills River.
What'd you do with all the sponge?
I personally either would drive it over to a little muddy hole where a mooring was and just dump it in the same exact spot in a muddy hole, or I would drive it up onto a beach that I kept dumping it on the same spot where there was no grass. It was just all rocks. And
So it wouldn't go back into the water?
yeah, I was just driving the boat, like, because I was mostly there at high tide. Like, I would dredge a decent amount, and then, time it for, like, high tide. I would just drive the boat up, like, as high as I could on, and unload it. Yeah.
So the bottom line is it seems to work.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm asking for would be to be able to go into all the conditionally approved areas in the winter months and do this. And some concerns that I've thought of and heard of would be like overfishing. Well, the limit would still be 5 baskets. As far as the dredge goes, that dredge was 13 inches wide and 5 inches deep, where my bull rake from a long pole would be 24.5 inches wide and 3 inches deep. So it's like twice the width almost. So, I mean, you're covering the same amount of bottom. It just, you don't have to kill yourself to do it. And then the silt, like running over silt and stirring up that stuff. Nobody wants to go fishing in the soup. There's no like clams, you know. So, and fishing short rake spots, you know, competing with guys that want to wade out. It's really hard to get up into those shallow spots. In the first year, there was like an area quarantined off so that we wouldn't compete in the Mills River with the shallow flats. And when that opened up the next year and the third year, I tried to go up into it, and it's really hard to like get up onto the flat. You have to be in 5 feet or so. So
That's it?
yeah, that's all I got.
Great. Any questions, committee?
Good job.
Thanks.
Yeah, good job. Anybody from general public? No? Amy, is what Jake is asking for, is that something that the town can regulate or work with him on?
It is. I think it's probably something that we would like try conditionally, similar to what we did in the Mills River. We also allow it in the Centerville River when we do contaminated relays. And it had shown to not do anything detrimental to the bottom and could potentially be beneficial. So I think it's something that we would try, see how many people are interested in doing it, how many people get into it, and then potentially, you know, craft, you know, there may be like conditions in the beginning for like, you know, size of drag that you can use, you know, maybe amount of water you have to be in, the conditionally approved areas that you can be in at any given moment in time. But it could lead to actual regulations moving forward if it's something that is, you know, turns out to be that beneficial.
That's great. So you'll work with Amy.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you very much. Next, new business, floating gear in Barnstable Harbor, agriculture zone, initial discussion. We have an asterisk on here. Where's the asterisk go to? Oh, the meeting will be televised? What?
No, it's because it was added after it was amended.
Oh, those were the hazard.
Oh, I see. Okay. So Amy, you're gonna discuss the floating
So
gear?
I thought it was under natural resources correspondence, so I already did.
Okay.
Because I don't have an amended agenda in front of me, unfortunately.
Okay.
So I did it out of
You've already
out of
done this.
listing. Yeah, this is in Barnstable Harbor, the Army Corps permit changeover. If people want to use, you know, it would be like a piece of floating gear per 2-acre site for use in their Vibrio control plans. But it's totally doable, and we're working on getting it like a done deal for people who are interested in it on our end for next Vibrio season. It would just be those growers that are interested in doing this, pursuing their own Army Corps permits moving forward.
Everybody understand that in the committee? How about general population or general public regarding Les?
Do you use the oyster grows?
Any type of floating pen,
Is there a size limitation on it?
I don't think we're there yet.
No, yeah, I don't think we're there yet either. I think it would be more based on size or what fixtures you need to keep it from leaving your site.
You're talking about one item,
The Army Corps specifically said like one, you could have.
but you're
like
talking
one-
about one oyster grow type thing,
Or
not,
like-
not,
It's not even
100?
a grow. No,
No,
it's not
it's
a
like-
grow,
it's
it's a
like
holding
one-
pen.
one pen per 2 acre site.
What's wrong with the mooring permit? What's wrong with the mooring
So
permit?
it's interesting that you
That's
say
what we-
that because, that's interesting that you say that because unfortunately, it has to be permitted through Army Corps because it's a specific use of gear, but it likely will be held down like a mooring is. And the objection to it, I think, if there is any from Waterways or Harbor Master is, well, what's the difference between you plopping a bunch of moorings in Barnstable Harbor and these people using this floating gear held down with a mooring anchor? So it might be like a mooring permit fee in combination with an Army Corps permit, but it still needs to, I still need to finish vetting it through Harbor Master and Waterways to determine like exactly what it is that they're going to require in order for us to move forward with it, because Natural Resources has no opposition to it.
Talking about one oyster grow?
Talking about one floating pen per 2 acre site that people can use to stage orders so that they're not like trying to get out there and pull up a tiny buoy with a bunch of line that has bags attached to it.
Everybody get it? Guys, vote?
Yes. I'm going to move on to the third item under new business. This is the 2024 Shellfish Committee meeting schedule. We're going to continue on the second Wednesday of the month. The January through March meetings start at 6. April through October meetings start at 6:30. November and December are 6. And the meeting dates are as stated in the agenda. January 10, February 14. Oh, that's Valentine's Day. Can we meet on Valentine's Day? Okay. March 13, April 10, May 8, June 12, July 10, August 14, September 11, October 9, November 13, and December 11. I'll entertain a motion to approve that meeting schedule.
Make a motion to approve the meeting schedule.
Greg.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion about the meeting schedule? The only thing I'll add is it will be most likely at the the Selectmen's Conference Room in the Town Hall. What's the address of the Town Hall?
367 Main Street.
Thank you. 357 Main Street.
67. 367.
367 Main Street. Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion?
Can you do Zoom in there?
There's no hybrid meetings,
Okay.
in person or Zoom only.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Great. Thank you for putting this together, Alicia. Upcoming and old renewal and transfer hearings. I would say that they're all but one. So the first two have happened. Were they approved?
So the hearing recommendation was sent to the town manager for a 30-day review with a note that the Shellfish Committee would be reviewing the applications for Tom Wood and also for Conrad Geiser at this meeting because you didn't have a quorum last month. So that note is in the hearing recommendation. So if there's any objection to the approval today, I would send an email to the town manager letting them know of that. Because it's still in the 30-day veto period for him. And then after that 30 days is up, it goes to town council for a 30-day review.
Thank you, Amy. So I'll start with number 1, number 5. This is site SG009. It says 2 parcels. Conrad Geiser. Does he actually farm that? He doesn't farm that, does he?
Not really anymore, no. It's managed by Chris Giuliano.
Okay. Any discussion about that grant by anybody in the committee? Public? I'll move to number 2, Thomas Wood, NG 055 and NG 057. Does he fish that?
Mm-hmm. He works with his dad.
Okay. Is Chris his dad?
He is.
Any discussion about that from the committee, general public? No? And they meet their criteria?
Yep.
Right. So, now number 3, Les Hemla, you've got a hearing tomorrow? Okay. Site NG, or SG 011. Amy, I'll ask, is that up to date? Are there
Yes,
harvest and everything else criteria all set?
yeah, and
Okay.
been respectful of the osprey that kind of messed there every single year.
What's that?
They have a float that osprey consistently have largely unsuccessful nests on every year, but every once in a while they have young.
So, any discussion in the committee about this request? It's a hearing that's going to take place tomorrow. Actually, it hasn't happened yet. No?
Nope.
Anybody from the general public want to talk about this? No? So, as we typically do, I'll entertain a motion to recommend that the town approve the,
So moved.
All three of them?
yeah, let's do all three. Well said. Is it still so moved, Mr. Lancaster?
Yes, sir.
Great. Do I hear a second? Great. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, great, thank you. Wow, no proposed coastal projects. Old business, status of repair Scudder Lane.
No.
There
No
was
status?
supposed to be a meeting this spring, and there wasn't, so maybe sometime this fall.
Okay. Anybody from the committee want to talk about that, or, no? Okay. Anybody general public about that, no? Okay.
Is there,
Oh,
I just had a question about Bush Point. Is there any way to open a discussion about maybe making the ramp better there at some point? Is that kind of a dumb way to address this?
no, it's not a dumb way. at
Okay.
all.
I don't really talk at these things, so what I'm trying to do is figure out if we can make the ramp somehow better there.
Okay.
Or putting boats in and taking boats out, maybe like a, sandwich marina situation, which is a lot more effective. I don't know if you guys know that. Marina.
So, you're talking about the towns or the states?
I mean, Bush Point, so the ramp
I
there.
think it's a state ramp.
It's a state ramp, yeah. I'm just thinking that, eventually, with the amount of people that go in and out of that harbor, as far as joy boaters and commercial workers, it just starts to get really congested and kind of a little crazy, so just thinking about what can be done to make it
Amy,
better.
what's the answer?
So I know there were talks about, like, I don't know where those talks are at. It largely was with harbor master staff, the state and DPW, in terms of like how to make that ramp better. I don't know where that's at. I can try to find out. It's not like something that we've had a seat at the table for really, because outside of, when they're dredging and it can affect shellfish habitat, it's a state boat ramp that, So, but you guys are all stakeholders to it, so I would say it's not
I'd say the harbor master.
yeah, it's really a harbor master and DPW thing, but I believe there was something in the works for looking at Lish. I just don't know if there was like a CIP for it, or if it's like, if there's planning design for something, or where it's at, so I can ask.
Thank you.
It's a state-funded ramp, so we should fire off some emails to people at the state, like Dan McKiernan and some others, but I've been battling that a little bit myself, and the response I've gotten is it's a recreationally funded parking lot and ramp, so like recreational fishing tournaments pay for that. So what I've been doing is I see there, like, see someone down there counting fish, people ask me, do you go strike fishing? Just tell them there are no stripers and it's only commercial fishing and using the ramp. That's what I've been doing.
You're being recorded.
You can edit that out. Isn't the town just gotta fix that curve? Was that the town disadvantage? What curve is
Blake.
Curve
The
all
cement
ramps,
curve.
like the ramps in better condition than
it?
ever.
Yeah, so it's a state-owned ramp managed by the town, so like the town will come in and fix it, but the state is kind of like calling the shots on it. And the money comes from a recreational fund, so it's kind of.
Just to make it completely confusing. so
Yeah,
there's no one-
yeah, so you always have a tail to chase.
But does anyone know who trucks in all the sand that eventually ends up down at the bottom of the ramp? Is that a state thing
I don't-
or is
I
that a
don't-
town
I'll
thing?
bite my tongue.
That's a town thing, right?
Yeah, so I weighed in on that when they did their little dune project over Millway and said that this is kind of like, you just wash Robert B. Hour's hands both ways, essentially, because they get to make this pretty dune that will then end up back at the boat ramp, and then you pay them to move the sand back over to a pretty dune, and then it goes back to the boat ramp. But that,
But that's a town thing, right?
it is, yeah.
So
Yep.
who in the town would be,
DPW does all of that, yeah. And we get told, when it's gonna happen. We're allowed to have our opinions on it, but that doesn't, or didn't, stop anything.
So may I suggest, we have a representative government in this town, and the representative is the town council, and everybody, I presume, is a resident of the town. I would contact the council, and I would get on the horn with them and say, listen, this is what I want you to advocate for the constituents, that's what you are. So I start there and say, press for this, and it'll be a pain in the neck. My God. In addition to everything else. Squeaky wheel. Okay? Thank you. So, we're gonna move on to proposed aquaculture regulation change to allow aquaculture licenses to be issued directly to a corporation. This is scheduled for a vote. We'll have a discussion here. I'll open it up to the public, and then we'll bring it after public. We'll then bring it back here. We'll have a vote here. So, anybody want to discuss it here?
Well, I think you got number 3 should be where number 2 is, and number 2 should be where number 3 is.
Well, do you want to have a vote?
Do I want to have a vote? Well, I think
Yeah, on the-
it needs discussion. Everybody seems to be wanting to have a vote when, here's number 3, which basically brings up all the issues of number 2.
Well, at our last meeting, at the August meeting, we reached the pinnacle of discussion as far as I was concerned, and that was on the issue of whether or not to change the regulations to allow aquaculture licenses to be issued to a corporation as opposed to an individual.
I don't
Just
think we
that point. What number 3 represents is a continued discussion on those other possible changes to the regulations. So what I'm suggesting at this point is we're ready to finally discuss and then vote on the issue of whether to allow aquaculture licenses to be issued directly to a corporation. Number 3 is number 3, further discussion.
And these are other possible changes to be made.
Things to be discussed,
and
or anything else
considered.
in the regulations. So, number 2, any discussion at the committee level at this point about whether or not to change the aquaculture license regulations to allow them to be issued directly to a corporation.
I'd like to hear from the public before I make any comments.
Okay, anybody else in the committee? Great, I'll open it up to the public. Yep, go ahead.
I would just
Wait a minute, hold on, behind you. I recognize the gentleman. But you have to state your name, please. Go ahead.
My name is Corey Hendricks, and I'm a shellfish farmer in Barnstable, and basically putting the licenses into a corporate name would cause a lot of consolidation, and more or less, I'm speaking for the 40 or so people who are on the list. It would make it so that larger farms basically can put everything all into one company and then indefinitely continue that company for the next 100 years. So basically, those type of changes would make it so the list is completely irrelevant. So that's where I stand with that, and that's all I have to say.
So are you in favor of it, or?
I am not in favor of
Thank
it.
you.
I think it should be town residents, so the town residents can work with the bigger businesses and maybe have a chance to make some side money or maybe get into the industry, because once all this, the 155 acres is locked up by companies, including, it could be my company, I mean, there is no chance for anyone on that list to ever really have a chance. And we've been paying money to be on that list. So, I mean, are they gonna get a refund for the money, the $5 every year? Is there gonna be, what's the point of the list, you know? So that's where I stand. There's three things. There's the business owners, there's the town people, but there's the people on the list. So it's not just us oyster farmers. I don't see anyone really on the list here, but my mother's on the list, and she's number 4, waited 13 years. So once all these guys who probably have, you know, multiple acres and a few people's names, now they can put it in a company and then have a manager just sit in town. I mean, I'm sure in a few years I have enough money to do that, move out of town, go try to get another farm in Yarmouth or something, and just have someone live in my house on Gearsh's Way, and I can just try to incorporate. And that's basically what will happen. So that's what I've been trying to stick up for and let everyone know before they make their decision.
Thank you. And then,
I was just curious.
what is your name, please?
Connor Rogan. I'm a commercial shellfisherman in town. I was just curious on like more just clarifying like this point, just so just explain it to the public. I haven't really been following this for like the last couple meetings, but I just would like clarification like on this like what's being proposed.
So, the best that I can explain it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if I misspeak. Currently, the regulations, aquaculture regulations require that a individual person who's a resident of the town of Barnstable is issued a aquaculture license. The proposal would change that to allow a corporation to be issued the license.
Would the corporation have to be present in town?
There's been some discussion about whether the corporation would be, the corporation is not a person, so it can't be a resident.
I get you.
So
But
that
like,
would evaporate.
ARC, just for an example, like there in Dennis, like under this, could farms be in like just ARC's name, not like under like a person's name?
So I would say that my interpretation of what's proposed is the answer to that question would be yes.
Okay.
So, using your example, ARC is granted or given the license by the town.
And they wouldn't need any resident in the town of Barnstable to hold the farm?
Well, that would be a problem that I would have, because how do you keep that connection to the town of Barnstable?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And I was part of the committee back when we formulated these aquaculture regulations. And it was very important then, and I think it still is in my mind, that there's a connection to the town.
Yeah.
If it's a corporation, if it's a Walmart, what connection do they have to the town? Do they put a manager in charge who happens to be a resident? Is that sufficient? I don't know.
Yeah, so I guess just as public comment, I'd want to urge the committee to vote in a way that's not going to take away from town residents when voting on this.
Appreciate it. Wayne? And then Les?
Wayne Hayes, grant holder. I'm in favor of the corporate thing, just to consolidate my own family's business and to ensure the fact that my son and my grandson can continue to do the work that I've pioneered and established. I mean, all this oyster growing that we're doing out there, the gear and everything that we're using didn't exist. I mean, Al and myself somewhat and other people created almost all the infrastructure that we have that people use. But more importantly, I'd like to see you do something about getting rid of that list. It's people that created the list. There was a couple of people that were on the committee back then that wanted any grants that got given up for themselves. To have all these people on the list think they're actually going to get a fund by being on the list is deceiving. There shouldn't be a list, or it shouldn't be closed, you know, or keep a handful of people that might, it doesn't help anything to have that list. I mean, most of the people who've gotten farms from being on a list haven't really done anything with them. Some have, but most haven't. But anyway, I'm in favor of it. I've been doing this for a long time, but it's not going to change that much other than my farm to be in the company name instead of my wife and I and my parents. Same people, same boats, same parking spots. Doesn't really change anything except for to ensure the fact that if somebody dies tomorrow, that my family can continue to earn a living. If something tragic happens, it's kind of important.
Thank you, Wayne.
Okay. Anyway, I've been doing this, I was on the same committee as you, Stuart, when we made up the rules, and that was over 25 years ago. Things change. My kids grew up, they're in the business. We've got 3 sites in the family, myself, my 2 sons, each have a site. You want to just consolidate them for insurance purposes, for reporting. It just makes for a clean operation. Same as Wayne, I'm not going to change the amount of boats, I'm not going to change the amount of properties. I just want it to be a smooth running company. So, and I'd like to be able to keep it in the family. My grandson told me the other day he wants to be an oyster farmer when he grows up. 4 years old. He should have that opportunity. Yeah, they say, yeah, we don't, not using the list. The people that got on board early got the grants. Then other people see, oh, they're doing well, now I want one. And it doesn't always work that way. But anyway, I'm definitely in favor of corporations or LLCs or partnerships, whichever business entity they decide to form, should be able to be under that umbrella.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Aaron Hemela. So currently I'm an employee of Barnstable Seed Farms. So I do hold a grant in my name, but I don't know how to do the paperwork on it. It's not really my responsibility, it's the business's responsibility. And until, we take over the company, it's like, it's just beyond me right now. So the business takes care of that. So it would kind of make sense to have like all the paperwork kind of go through as a corporation. I'm not sure how old I was when I got a grant. The rules were kind of weird back then.
I think you're about 5.
I might have been 5 years old when I got my grant. So I might have put, my 3-year-old daughter on the wait list. But honestly, we don't need any more space. So we have our 3 sites, and that's all we need. We just want to protect our business. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, David.
David Ryan from Tuit. I'm a partner at Cape Cod Oyster Company. This isn't something that we're moving towards out of expansion or anything else. It's only about business continuity. So we work on 7 sites at Barnstable Harbor, one of which is already licensed to a corporation. The town is very inconsistent in that all of our south side acreage is already licensed to a corporation. But it's really about business continuity. If all the Ryan sites and Alan, his wife's site, could be licensed to the company, it allows us, when we move on, to let employees take over the company or some other responsible, entity to continue the business. It absolutely is DNR's position, as it was stated to me by a manager higher than Amy, that they would rather, when Al and I move on, when Wayne moves on, when any of these other people that are up around my age move on, that those sites go to others, that the business gets, broken up and distributed to people on a wait list. I really think it's in the best interest of the town that the infrastructure that we have helped to develop, the markets that we've helped to develop, the seed we provide to other growers, the market oysters that we help other growers move, I think are all a real positive asset to the town, and it would be a shame if the business isn't allowed to continue when we age out. To further illustrate Wayne's point, he's even in a more vulnerable situation than us, where Doug, who's in his 30s, just by rule, because of the 2-acre limitation, he can't assume his grandparents' leases. He can't assume his mother's lease. He can't assume your lease because he's there's other people in the room that are facing the exact same thing, and so I won't speak for them. But it's certainly, this is about business continuity, not business expansion, not taking over the harbor. You can put in any type of caps to where we are now. We've told you that any number of times. It's business continuity. It's 14 full-time employees with our company. It's a tiny business in the grand scheme of things. It's a tiny business. We're paying full-time. We're paying full benefits package. We have kids in the we have employees who have kids in the public school. They own homes in town. It would be a shame if the business isn't allowed to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Jared?
Jared Hemlock, Barnstable Sea Farms, with these guys here. I've been with the company now for 10 years. I think I'm starting to get serious with it. And
News to Dad.
Yeah. But I've been with aquaculture and farming and stuff for most of my life. When I was a little kid, and yeah, I love what I do, and I just want to make sure that I'll be able to continue doing it for as long as I can. And we're not Walmart. We're just 3 guys that want to farm oysters, and we want that all to be consolidated. I get a W-2, but from the company, but we just want to keep it all consolidated, and we would just like to be, everything be in one name, with that limited liability aspect, so that no one person takes a big hit if we have a big loss or something. So yeah, I'm in favor of having a corporation, not some Walmart, but 2 or 3 guys to be able to own the farm.
Hold on, see anybody else? You and then you. Go ahead.
Paul Hamblin, Spring Creek Shellfish. I really don't have too much more to add that these guys haven't already added. I'm in full support of being able to combine multiple acreages and put them under a corporation name, mainly just for the continuity, the paperwork, and over 20 plus years of doing this, me and my stepfather, Scott Warrior here, and my mother, we've gotten a handful of grants, and now they're getting to the point where they want to retire pretty soon, and I've been slowly taking over their land, farming it. And now I've gotten to a point where I rely on this acreage to continue my business. And, you know, if something were to happen and their acreage gets taken away from me, I'm out of luck, I'm out of business. I can't continue on just a 2-acre parcel, especially with clams. I grow a lot of clams, and they take up a lot of room. There's a 3-year turnaround on clams. I mean, you need some acreage to grow a good amount of clams to make a living on. And there's also issues with insurance. You know, I was at the Farm Bureau yesterday trying to deal with paperwork, and it's always confusing trying to tell them, oh, that's my mother's grant, but I work that grant, or that's my stepfather's grant, or that's my uncle's grant, but I have all my product on there. So I think just from a continuity standpoint, I think that's kind of the major thing to consider. And also, what needs to be understood is there's nothing is going to change. Like everybody has said, we're going to all remain the same size. We're going to have probably the same amount of employees. We're not trying to take over the world here. We're just trying to make it a little bit easier from a paperwork standpoint.
Jen Bunnell, husband Matt, my son Jack has a grant, and my father-in-law Stephen has a grant. We operate 8 acres. And I can tell you right now that we operate those as one farm. I don't have 4 different checking accounts for 4 different farms. I don't report to the state 4 different farms. We report under one company name. I think the same thing that everyone has said here. You know, we have 2 full-time guys, we have summertime employees, we are a small business. We're not a Walmart. No one's coming in and gonna take over these grants. I do believe that they should remain in 2 or whatever acre maximum parcels, but I truly believe that, or I support having these in corporation's name. I think the continuity, I think passing it on, my father-in-law is getting older. I'd like to be able to, I think everything that everyone has said here is, I definitely, other than the people that are against it, I totally agree with.
Anybody else? Corey?
Yeah, I have a formal education in environmental protection and safety, and so no matter what way you want to paint it, it is turning it into a private entity. It's turning it into a commodity. So you're pretty much giving these companies based on, they have a great story, that they get to have it in that company's name forever. And like Connor said, people like you, Connor, will never get a grant. It will be in licenses names. These guys have been doing it for 40 years, you know. There's other guys that have been doing it for just as long, if not longer. I mean, I actually deal with other hatcheries and people that they don't deal with. Some of the same people, but essentially, no matter what the story is it's continuity. It's this. It's privatizing it, putting it in your company's name, and most of these guys are 60 plus years old. Average death age in America is 76 years old for a male. So what's your succession plan is what I want to know. You can keep telling me you're not going to sell it to Walmart. It might not be Walmart. It might be Island Creek Oyster. It might be one of these other big guys from Seattle or something like that. So, like I said, if it changes, I'll be the first one to sell out to a corporate and make me $1 million. You think you can't grow quahogs in less than 3 years? Crazy. I just sold 2,000 pieces today. 1.5 years old. I'd make almost 100 grand 3-4 years into it. There's money out there you can make off a 2-acre grant. I own a house. All my stuff is paid off. I mean, if you guys want to shut down the opportunity for anyone on that list, that's what that vote will do.
Thank you.
Did you get your grant off the list? Were you on the list when you got your grant?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I was on the list for
You
13
were the
years.
next person in line to get a grant?
Nope, I got it transferred, which is
Okay.
available for
So
all
you
you.
bypassed the list.
So did you. How'd you get that co-op grant? How'd you get that co-op grant?
I bypassed the list several times.
Yeah.
I'm not denying that. At one point, I had 10 acres out there. My 10 acres in everybody else's name.
That's fine.
So nothing's gonna change, Corey. The amount of people, I'm not gonna go out and get 25 acres now because I can have a corporation. That's not.
It's it's keeping it a town person or not.
Can I bring it back, guys, can I bring it back, or you can?
Well, I guess I don't mind it being inconvenient, because I ran 12.6 acres in the tribe, I ran 12 acres for ARC, and I did all the paperwork myself.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
I ain't got nothing to say to that.
Anybody else?
Me, I want to say something. I got mine off the list.
Okay.
So, before like the whole oyster craze, you know, I didn't even know how to sell them. I was like, I don't know what I could even get for them. So, I didn't get in there because I saw somebody else making more money. That's not what happened. If the corporation things goes through, you don't know who they're going to sell it to. You got to figure it. They're going to say they can sell it. So if they sell to another big corporation, what's the town going to do when some big corporation goes, well, I'll sue you because I want to do this? How are you going to fight that? Like you say, fighting Walmart. I know it ain't going to be Walmart, but that's what's going to happen. Now the last 2 transfers went to 2 young guys. Where they should be going.
Yeah.
Most of these guys got all these other grants because they got them someone who retired or they got them someone that passed away. That's how these all came through. So that would just shut it down for the way they got them for everybody else.
Okay. Anybody else in the public? Yes, go ahead.
Scott Lowry, Barnstable Harbor. I think, in my opinion, I think the word corporation is scaring a lot of people. I've said this to Dave Ryan before and Al. The corporations that are in Barnstable Harbor are little mom and pop organizations. They're little family farmers, if you want to call it. The Bumblebee Seafoods and all that crap is not going to come into Barnstable Harbor and buy 35 grants from people. That's not going to happen. It could
going on in
could
Connecticut.
happen, absolutely, it could happen. But I think if you made this regulation so that it worked for the current farmers that are out there, and then you had other regulations alongside that would stop Bumblebee Seafoods or some other organization from coming in here and buying. I think the state law is what, 10 acres? I think is what you're allowed to have.
So the 10 acres.
And then other than that, you need some special permitting. So I really don't think that some big corporation is going to come in here and do this. I've had 8 acres that I worked at one point. I had it in everybody else's name. So, I mean, you can still do that.
I'm not a bigot
But
or anything,
the
but
fact that you can have
Asian concerns coming in here and
like I
checking
said, the word
everything
corporation
back.
is scaring a lot of people, a business that owns several grants. It was more convenient for the reporting, because I'll be honest with you right now, I guarantee you my paperwork was not accurate for the 8 acres that I worked. I mean, I don't know where these oysters, what grant these oysters came off, well, yeah, put them under your name, Tina, or put them under Paul's name, or put them under this name. It doesn't matter. I mean, if it's all together, the paperwork reporting is more convenient, and I think that's where everybody is going with this. There's not enough room out there for several corporations. Like I said, the word corporation, they're little mom and pop organizations. Insurance and taxes and everything else is why these guys have corporations.
So can I make a clarification, point of clarification?
Sure.
So Connecticut was mentioned, in Connecticut, real estate changes hands. We're talking about names on a license. In our town, in the state of Massachusetts, it's a yearly renewal with a full review every 10 years. You know, if you were selling real estate, there might be an attraction to, you know, somebody big coming in. We're talking about names on a license.
So you're saying to this room that the aquaculture business in Connecticut is you buy a parcel of land in the water?
I believe all those giant leases in Long Island Sound are owned.
Correct.
That is true.
The land is owned?
The land is owned.
2,000 acres could be in one person's name from out of state.
Yeah. And it's certainly not the case here. Right, it's a name on a license.
And we all know that you don't own the land.
Right, right. We're not, the town of Barnstable is not at risk of Monsanto or, you know, Balsam
Another
Dairy.
point of clarification? What?
If anybody in this room wanted to acquire more, which is what somebody's question is, they could just get out their checkbook and acquire more.
And
If anybody on that list really wanted a grant.
Yeah, but some young guy who doesn't have that money can't.
You can get the money anytime you want.
Yeah, but I mean,
Don't
come
be
on, this
silly.
20, 30-year-old guy trying to
He
make
can
his
get
way.
as much money as he wants.
No, he can't. Come on. Get real.
Really?
Get real. Come
How,
on.
do you
Yes,
wanna,
Bob?
Chairman, I'd like
Wanna
to
make a
move
bet?
this question.
let's bet.
Okay, so it's been brought back to the committee. The question's been moved.
I will propose that we change the aquaculture regulation to allow agricultural licenses to be issued directly to a corporation.
And that's a motion that you've just made.
A motion.
Do I hear a second?
I'd like to make a comment before.
You can't. No.
I can't?
No.
Let's either going to get seconded or
Do I hear a second?
I might point out that moving the question and seconding it does not approve it. That just allows us to vote on it.
So, motion's been made, it hasn't been seconded.
I'll second it.
You better say it louder.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded, now I'll hear a discussion.
Oh, a discussion?
Yeah.
Oh,
There's a motion on the table, it's been seconded.
well, I think we've heard from everybody here, or most everybody here. It's pretty clear, it's not pretty clear, it's very clear. Nobody's looking for more acreage. Everybody's got what they want. As Wayne said, if you want to get more acreage today, all you gotta do is write a check, and you can go to the farm service. Anybody in this room can go to the farm service and get as much money as they want. So, as far as the list goes, that's a non-issue. The list doesn't mean anything. But, that said, nobody's looking for more land. This is a small farming operation for everybody. And if you want to blow up the small family farm, vote no. That's all I got to say.
Okay, anybody else?
We're voting on this statement.
The motion that's on the floor. The motion,
which is to allow this change, to allow corporation, as it's stated.
so let me just chime in a little bit. I'm having difficulty with the Barnstable connection. The Barnstable connection in my mind is the people who are in this room who work the
Everybody's from Barnstable.
Right.
So make the manager from Barnstable.
Yes.
Oh, can you?
So let me finish.
Yeah.
I have a trusted estates practice, and I hear succession planning over here. And that's right up my alley, and I understand that wholeheartedly. But I also understand that if you're dead, your heirs can inherit this grant, or license, or whatever we want to call it. So there is a succession plan, it goes to your heirs. Now, if your heirs are 4, I think our regulations prohibit a 4-year-old holding a license. But they are inheritable. So from a succession plan perspective, I think that
Yeah,
part
but
is
they're not
checked.
inheritable if you already have some acres.
They're inheritable by people. If you're now violating the size requirement, let's talk about what the size should be.
I agree.
But if they're,
I absolutely agree.
Can I add something to that too? They're inheritable, but what happens if my daughter or son, who I'd love to inherit them, lives in another state or doesn't live in Barnstable? Then you don't fit the residency requirement.
Right.
That's in, and the 2-acre thing. So if like my son already has, and I'd love him to take over our farm one day, he already has 2 acres in his name. How's that doesn't work.
So therein lies my dilemma. My dilemma is, how do you allow it to succeed to the next generation without violating the rules? Your next generation lives out of town, well, they can't inherit it. They can inherit it on a piece of paper, but they'll then fail because they're not a resident. So, I've got to tell you, I'm not a fan of a large corporation owning this. I have somebody on my shoulder chirping in my ear from 1990, and he said, at some point, the corporations will own these grants. And that stays with me, and I don't like that idea.
But Stuart, I've owned that Katuitt Oyster Company, and Cape Cod Oyster Company, have owned the majority of the grants in this town.
I get it.
For over 100 years. I've owned mine for 40 years.
Yeah. So
Have
how
we taken over everything? No.
How do we assure, I love the fact that people said nothing's gonna change. Well,
Let everybody consolidate what they have today, everybody in this room, consolidate what they have, me included. I think we've got a total of 7, I don't know what the number is, but whatever it is, that's enough. I don't want any more acres. I don't think
But you're one person.
What I heard is, nobody wants any more acres. Or if they do want acres, put a 6 acre or 8 acre maximum.
Yeah,
You know,
go ahead.
you got a screwy deal now because I've already got in corporate name, I already got a bunch of acres.
I agree, that's screwy.
It's screwy. Not gonna change, and it's not gonna change the Katuitt Oyster Company. They've been like that for 150 years.
And they were grandfathered, if I recall correctly, Katuitt Oyster was grandfathered when our regulations came into being. They were grandfathered to keep them
Yeah, I don't think it
titled
was
the way
even
they were.
mentioned. I don't even think it was mentioned.
Oh, Dick Nelson was at those meetings.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he
well,
advocated for,
But so you've got this
Status quo.
situation where you've got grants that are already in corporate name.
I know.
And you've got all of these people that are, been in the business for, like me, 40 years. Now I'm getting older. If I want to give the company to employees or to whoever, then what do? I can do some because I get some land, but I can't do all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do.
So I would like to see it get it restricted to the point where everybody's at today. Because as Wayne said, he can go out tomorrow, I can go out tomorrow, he can go out tomorrow, anybody in this room can go out tomorrow and buy any grant they want to buy.
Oh, we're aware of that, Al.
So, in other words, in other words, just because it's gonna say corporation, anybody can buy all these grants tomorrow and there's nothing the town can do about it. Nothing.
But in my head,
That's the point.
it's a person who happens to be domiciled in this town. You throw a
You can go out and
corporation,
find anybody you want to be a domicile.
you throw a corporation's name on that, the corporation doesn't exist anywhere, other than on a piece of
Well,
paper
then
at the Secretary of State's office.
restrict the acreage, that the people have today. The people that want to do a corporation, restrict it to what they have today. That takes care of that, and,
That's a broader question.
Hmm?
That's a broader question, which is why I understand why you wanted number 3 first versus number 2. I get that. Pat?
Okay. Can we perhaps get a working group to have other conversations about this
We can't
and
do
talk?
that.
Because we're not.
We tried that.
We're not.
We tried
All
that.
right.
And we were shot down.
Allowed to do it, right?
Has
Oh,
the
we're not allowed
town
to.
council, not council, council. had any-
Attorney?
Yeah, the town, better word. Had any input on this at all? No. Has any of this been brought?
So I know we're being recorded and I have no comment.
Okay.
I mean, you got everybody in this room that's got their serious issues. I mean, they have
Yeah,
a
like
child,
serious issues.
they have a child that's got a lease, because they need leases to have enough to have a barn and have employees and everything
Yeah.
else. And all of these people are doing the same thing. Wayne, I mean, he's got a bunch of guys working for him. And
So
he's
there has
got-
to be a solution.
There's a solution, someplace there's a solution.
And I don't see a solution by just saying the corporations can own it,
Well then,
in my opinion.
okay, that's fine, but so make it an LLC, you know, with a
Same
manager.
thing, it's the same thing.
Okay.
It needs to be crafted better than it is.
You're the attorney, come up with something.
Can I add something? So-
Not until we're, no, not yet. Go ahead.
Well, he just said it. He could sell it to anybody he wants, the town can't do nothing, so it's going incorporated, so he can sell it to anybody who we want.
No,
and the
no,
town
yeah,
can't
but I
do
can
nothing.
sell any of
That's
my
what-
grants.
That's what you just said.
You can
So
sell
if
any
you
of your
incorporate it,
grants.
You can sell your 50
You can
acres,
sell yours,
your hatchery to who?
Yeah, but you
For
can sell
multi-million
mine, I can
dollars, it's
sell
gonna be a
mine.
big company and swapped out of the middle of us.
And you can
This is
sell
what we want
yours,
to
you got
avoid.
yours
This
for
is what we
nothing,
wanna
didn't you
avoid.
get yours for nothing?
Why is
I
that
got
true?
mine off the list, mine off the list.
Okay, so
I'm
you
a
got it for
list
nothing,
person.
you can sell it today if you want.
Candy?
Why is that true, that somebody can buy a grant and the town can't do anything with it?
So, let me give my explanation, please. Guys? Thank you, I don't have a gavel. So the question is, by our newest member, how can a grant be sold? This is what I understand. There's a transfer allowance. You can transfer a grant from one person to another. That transfer is a public transfer. They come to our committee, they're approved by the town. But over here, there's a transaction that we're not aware of, we're not a part of, and that transaction, I think, includes a little bit of money. So that's where it comes from.
That's what they're talking about?
Yep, that's what I believe.
Is that a door that we should shut?
Can't.
Why can't we?
I think Mr.
It's a
Super.
state law.
Yeah, I think he's right. Now, I mean, that's part of, do we mess around with that portion of it? I think we're kind of tied, our hands are tied because it has to be able to be allowed. Do we take a tax off of that? I don't know. I don't like taxes, so forget I said that. But you understand that?
I do, thank you.
Does that make sense? Is that how it happens now? Yeah.
Well, you're buying inventory, if money changes hands, you're buying inventory.
There you go.
You know,
Gear.
both shellfish equipment, but you're buying boats, you're buying gear, right?
The company name?
Company, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Because everybody, I presume, that has a grant sells to whomever, Pangea, whoever you sell to, under some trade name.
Okay.
Right? You don't call them Barnstable oysters, do you? Well, maybe some of you do.
I've been talking for 2 years.
Yes.
I was gonna make a comment about the corporation thing. So you know, and everybody in here that either has an LLC or a corporation or a partnership, every year you have to file an annual report. It's part of your reporting. So every year you have to pay a fee, whether it's an LLC fee or a corporate fee or whatever, and you have to say where your physical address is. Maybe that's part of it, has to be in Barnstable. You have a mailing address, you have a physical address. I do it every year. Everybody has to do this. You also have to say who your president is, who your officers are, who's on the board of directors. So there is an address field on all these LLC, corporate, partnerships, whatever. That may be what you're looking for that has to be in Barnstable. Because those managing members also have addresses on the, I mean, you'd be perjuring yourself if you put in the wrong address or a different address or whatever. I'm just saying, everyone in here that has a corporation has to do something like that every year, by law.
I appreciate that. Corey?
Yeah, I just, we're just talking about the license, not the expansion of the
Correct.
acreage. So I just, as a way to like be a compromise, I thought of like, just like your transaction card that everyone has to have, Jake has a lot of endorsements. He does a lot of wild fishing. I don't know why the name couldn't be first, so it keeps the town like thing that everyone wants, but have, say, some of these guys have 4 different grants. Why can't it be the different names with the company? Now, if someone passes away unexpectedly, just like, you know, you can already transfer it down to somebody, give the company X amount of time to transferred to someone that they work with within the town. Almost like an endorsement or a sponsorship. So it's not that the corporation actually owns the license, but the corporation can be on multiple licenses. And then for the succession for the people who have grandchildren, multiple acres, I mean, it gives you some time for that corporation to hold the lease, hold the license, and put it into someone in the town's name that they do business with. Therefore, everyone gets the best of both worlds, you know?
Thank you.
So, this is my Shellfish identification card for the grant that I work on in Barnstable Harbor. And the company name of the grant is on top, and then my name's underneath. I don't know if that's what we're talking about, if it's the same thing or...
Jake, is that considered an employee transaction card? Is that
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Okay.
I think they call it a sanctioned harvester card or something, yeah.
A what harvester card?
A sanctioned harvester.
Okay. Thank you. So we're back in the committee, having a discussion about the motion that's on the floor, or on the table.
Can you think of any, I mean, can you get the town attorney to come up with some?
Here's what I'd like to see happen. I'd like to see the people that are in the room craft a regulation. That's what I'd like to see.
Done. You can do that.
And I'd like to see it crafted so that it can be brought to the town attorney's office, and we negotiate this further.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep. We have a motion that's been seconded, and
I think I would like to withdraw my motion at this time.
so his motion's been made to withdraw his motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. So, discussion on the motion to withdraw the motion.
I like your idea.
What's the point of that?
Yeah, what are we even meeting for?
Could I make a motion to?
No, because we're
okay.
talking about this one
Okay.
that's currently on the table.
Waste of time every Wednesday.
Or something like that.
You want to see it voted on, right?
Well, yeah, it doesn't really, I mean...
Or we could, you make a
I mean,
vote.
I'd like to get it voted on.
You
We can
vote on it,
debate
it
this more.
doesn't mean you can't bring something back, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is exactly right.
Yeah. That's why I was hoping we would go on this.
I would make a motion.
No, you can't.
Oh, okay.
You can discuss the motion that is on the table.
Which is?
To withdraw the motion that was previously moved and
vote.
seconded, to vote.
I think that's an excellent idea, because I think we can sit in a room with the people that are here, who are the people that are most interested in.
Oh, you can't say that.
What?
You can't say that. Sorry. You can't say
What?
they're the
Why?
most interested in that. If you're not here, you're not interested. You can't say, you don't know.
Okay, well, we'll have a meeting, in other words, we can't have a subcommittee, we cannot do
I
that.
understand that, but you can't say somebody who isn't here isn't interested. There's people who
Well,
are
they might be
interested and
interested,
couldn't
but
attend.
somebody's
I'm just
gotta-
trying to keep the hyperbole down, so just,
Somebody's gotta make up a document that Stuart said, you know, the interested parties, put it that way.
it needs to be done differently than how we're doing it. We're doing it sort of from the seat of our pants, and it needs to be done by people who have a legal background, because if we just make a change in verbiage, we can open a door that we don't intend to open. Lots of people are saying, you know, but I don't intend to do that. Well, that may be the case, but if we're not careful in how we do this, we could open the door to some unintended consequence. So what we need is people smarter than us who can take under consideration our concerns, their concerns, and put it together so that legally it's viable. And then we don't have court cases coming after us.
I don't think that's what Stuart was saying.
That's precisely what I'm saying.
Well, the people in this room can't do that.
Sure they can.
Well, we could come up with a piece of paper with a lot of stuff on it.
Right.
And then give it to somebody else, give it to the town attorney or something like that.
Well, they'll get it eventually.
He's
Well,
asking,
what Candace
Bring it
said.
back here.
he's asking for it to be concise, so we have something to discuss, and then we can take that to the attorneys, and they can say, yeah, no, that won't work, or that's not legal, or, you know, that's expertise we don't have.
Right.
And we have to be careful. So if we voted tonight, it probably wouldn't go, and there's gonna be a lot of disappointed people. But if we take our time and we discuss this with lawyers and say, here's our intent, how do we make that happen? That's probably the safest way to go.
So, we're discussing the motion to withdraw the motion. Further discussion? Now I'll call for a vote on the motion to withdraw the motion to vote. Okay?
So yes
All in
means
favor,
we-
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. The motion to vote on this particular item has been withdrawn. It's 10 of 8. Number 3, I think, is not mooted, but I think it should be part of the discussion,
Part of,
the overall discussion.
yes, I agree.
Where's your agenda?
Which is that's basically all the details that. we-
Other regulations to be discussed. So, now I'm going to move to matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair. Are there any?
For the other chair.
So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Chairman, you have a motion.
It's been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.